it feels like Danes are not afraid. Um, Although, we should of course be cautious and follow the standards and the rules. People want to go out and start living,
Hmm.
and I, as a restaurant person, of course, that made me feel quite nice.
So when this whole pandemic crisis hit, you were actually on a vacation with your family.
Yeah,
So when you got the news, because Denmark closed really radically and suddenly,
yeah.
um, what was going through your head? Like what was the reality for you?
Okay, so I was on a vacation. Was on a almost 4 month sabbatical actually, and we just bought some tickets to Japan, and we thought take it from there. And we went skiing for the first time in my life as a 42-year-old. I skied for the first time in my life. We went to Kyoto, we went to Tokyo. We bought. We used all our points from the last many years of traveling, and we went all over the world to LA, and then we ended up in Mexico, where I had spent almost 2 months before it was really starting to get very bad in Italy. And when it started to get very bad in Italy, I called up my team in Copenhagen, and I said, we need to make a worst case scenario for this, because there's no way this is not going to come to Denmark. And so by the time that the closure happened, which was on a Thursday, we had already made our worst case scenario, which we called Operation Family Mode. And our worst case scenario was everything's going to close, we won't have any help, and we don't know for how long we need to close. And so, how do we take care of all the people and go into hibernation in a way where everybody feels safe, are well fed, and have proper shelters? Kind of, it was a little bit dramatic at that time.
Hmm.
It felt like the world was maybe going to end at that point. And then we were stuck in Mexico. We had to cut our vacation 20 days short. We had multiple planes canceled. I believe it was 6 in total. And ultimately, we were able to get home via Switzerland. Um, Kind of nerve wracking, but also a little bit exciting at the same time, a little bit fun at the same time, if I can, use those words as fun and exciting in these times where people are really struggling. But we also kind of had a little bit of fun with it, with the family and the kids.
What did the
So
girls think?
they love having a mask on. To them, they think it's like all a game.
Did they take it seriously though, Renee? The kids.
Oh yeah, I mean the kids take it serious. We explained them everything. We tried to just explain exactly how it was that there was a pandemic in the world. There's this virus that it's really easy to pass around. It's quite a serious one. Usually, if you are younger, you don't have any thing to worry about. But we should really take care to make sure that grandmother or their two grandmothers are safe. So we're gonna have to, for the next many months, just change our lives. And they understood it, so they weren't sort of in panic. And we well, that's very important, that the kids don't feel this great anxiety that most adults are having right now. Most people that I know, they sleep, even though even the positive ones, like I feel I'm pretty positive in throughout all this. I still don't sleep very well. I still have like wake up at 6, at 5, and like, oh shit, am I awake now? I only slept 6 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours, and then I fall asleep a little bit. But I do feel most of the kids here in Denmark, they're doing really well, and most Danes, they're doing really well. I feel it's necessary to say this, and I told this when I was speaking to Marie Claude as well on a different interview. Danish people are really going through this on first class in comparison to most places.
Yeah.
There is control. People are safe. Everyone is cheering in natural wines and eating charcuterie, and asparagus are in season now. And I mean, obviously there's great uncertainty, and there are people also dying from this and really sick. But the majority of people, they're doing pretty well, and even the majority of the majority, they are like at home with full pay. You know.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. How is it in Denmark, and how has the government supported you in the infrastructure of restaurants and hospitality? Because you are quite different than the rest of the world in terms of, the social supports that you get.
Yeah. So we have two care packages. One is for what they call fixed costs. So that's rent and so on. And that's actually covered 100%. So we have full coverage for rent and fixed costs like electricity and stuff like that.
Sure.
An amazing help, incredible help. And then we have a different package which is meant for staff, in which our government helps with approximately 80% of the paychecks of the team, and the rest of it we have to find. And obviously it's a great help, but you can only participate in these care packages if you don't fire anyone. So
Okay.
you're sort of also forced to have the entire team and pay for the entire team, which is a great problem for a lot of people right now. Already now people are going bankrupt despite this care package, simply for the fact that people don't have that type of cash laying around. And neither do we as Noma. We have had to take a bank loan, and we can only take bank loans right now because they are also guaranteed by the government. So between the care packages and the bank loans and gift certificates that people have been buying, we now have this financial foundation for the rest of the year. But so that's how it is. And obviously it's a life support right now for the industry. Everybody's super worried for the moment when everything opens up and there are no tourists in town. Probably a lot of people will be worried to dine out. There will be all these new standards and rules. For instance, in Norway and Sweden, Sweden never closed their restaurants. Norway are opening in the beginning of May. Everybody have to sit with 1.5 meters apart from each other. And for a place like Noma, yeah, that's okay. But for everyone else, a cafe, the big volume type of restaurants, it's a mega blow. And then if they have the entire team because they took a care package, suddenly they might have to fire half the team. And suddenly, if there's no care package beyond, it will be a very tough time. So in a way, it's kind of, we're being held up now, but everybody's worried that maybe it's just postponing the inevitable, which will be a lot of restaurants closing, great unemployment in the trade.
Well, I think that the reality is that the crisis hasn't actually hit. I mean, both for restaurants in terms of what the capacity is going to look like, and then both for the food and farming system and the supply chain thereafter. The restaurants opening in the States, and they have a much different situation than obviously you have, and Canada as well. Do you think that the government has a role and a responsibility, an obligation, if you will, to actually support some kind of bailout for hospitality?
Of course. There's no, or else, to me, obviously I'm a restaurant person. Restaurants, and increasingly so, particularly in the past 10 years, have become the very fabric of which the cultural DNA is made of in cities. And the independent restaurants, by which I mean mom and pop shops. Noma is an independent restaurant. I own this. I have actually just bought it from my partners. I've just taken a gigantic bank loan and mortgaged my house 6 months ago. So I'm an independent restaurant too. And obviously I believe that greatly that in those operations, that's where the diversity happens. That's where true innovation happens. This is where you have these are the organizations that makes life worth living for people on a daily basis. And they're going to be in a lot of trouble if they don't get help beyond all of this. And of course you need government help. Absolutely.
So
this is paramount.
One of the things I'm curious about though, Rene, in the advocacy that I've seen in different countries is it's an all for one kind of approach. And I'm curious, in the States, the PPE applies to McDonald's franchisees the same as it does for my friend Amanda Dirt Candy. So how do you rationalize who gets to be saved? Because not everybody's going to survive. How do we build a model so that the right restaurants still exist, the community-driven restaurants still exist? or the
Mm.
independents?
Yeah, it's very complex, and it's hard to fully wrap my head around that system. Obviously, the big restaurants, they also employ a lot of people.
Sure.
The chains do too, and they also, I'm assuming many of them, they are not doing well either. And it's a numbers game. It's, if you can help one chain, you already helped, I don't know how many thousand employees. So I guess if you look at it like that, it's an easy choice like that. But if you also take in the factor of a culture, and culture, just that, which is to me the essence of any place. What culture you are, what culture you have, that is who you are. And in culture, there's restaurants and agriculture and food, and that diversity that belongs into that world. And we need to figure out how that's going to go down. And I don't know. I mean, I guess in Denmark it's fairly simple, because the care packages and the fixed cost can only be applied if your business have less than 60 million kronas of expenses annually. So that's $8 million. And I'm assuming many of these big chains, their fixed costs are multiple times that. So that's a way of doing it. That's what's happened here in Denmark is, if you're a big company, you have great fixed cost, you're expected to figure that out yourself somehow. Whereas right now, the majority of this money is for smaller independent businesses. And I like that a lot.
Absolutely.
That's a way of doing it, but I guess you have to make that choice. And so one of the care packages, the choice is, if you have fixed cost more than 60 million kroner, which is around $8 million, then you can apply for the care packages.
Okay.
So it's in Denmark, I guess it's the reverse of what I'm seeing happening in America.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Germany, we have it pretty decently, and there's a lot of innovation going on. But we, like you, and Noma has been at the forefront of making Copenhagen a destination for dining. I know that a lot of your guests are actually people that come from away. So it's one thing to reopen the restaurant. It's another that you're going to be operating at, maybe 50% capacity. But then where are the diners coming from?
They're coming from just over here. See that building
Yes.
right there? They're welcome. We are going to be a local restaurant. We had, in Denmark, at Noma, we consider our local community is Scandinavia. And 60% of our guests were from Scandinavia to begin with. And we had 35% guests Danes. Can we have that going forward? I believe so. Was there even more Scandinavians that wanted to have a table? We also believe so. But we're still expecting a drop in 50% of our guests. But who is to say when and what borders will open, how many tickets are available, what is the appetite to travel? I can only say that how I felt about the situation 2-3 weeks ago in comparison to where it is today, it's greatly more optimistic because you feel it in society. You can see every day that the numbers are down. We all expect the numbers to go up again once society truly opens, and there might be another lockdown, but at least we know what we're going into next time,
Exactly.
So who knows? We still might have a tiny little bit of a summer season where we won't have the same as before, obviously, but there might be some. I'm not so worried about summer. I'm more worried about January, February, March, April next year, because those are traditionally the shittiest month for any restaurant in any city. And how shitty are they going to be this year or this coming season?
Exactly.
That's a big worry. So we are sort of advocating for locally here that we need care packages beyond the closure, that the restaurant trade, which is one of the most hit industries, obviously, but is also one of the industries where the margins are so low, and we employ so many people, and we also employ copious amounts of immigrants, people that have lower education levels, you could say. But I'm not saying they're dumb or anything. I'm just saying that we employ a great number of of people that spans a big diversity of professions and nationalities, and it's a place that needs extra care right now because we're very vulnerable. And so we are trying to push for a care package even when we're open, that we even have some sort of help. It could be tax breaks, it could be it could be simply getting financial aid for to secure the team. So we're pushing everything that we can, and we're talking to our representatives all the time about this. Peter is basically on the phone twice a week, Peter Kreiner, the general manager at Noma, to our representatives that are sitting, discussing with the government for our industry. And I think everybody should be a little bit political active right now in this field, as much as they can.
Absolutely.
They need to put pressure on their representatives.
Mm-hmm. I've heard you talk about Noma 3.0. What's going on in your head? Where's your imagination driving you to? What are you thinking about the restaurant once we have some kind of normalcy?
Yeah. So, I like to always have these plans. I might like to make lists, and I need, it gives me a sense of order in this chaos. So, we call the first phase Operation Family Mode. We're beyond that now. Now we're trying to plan for the opening, and we try to we're calling that Operation Noma 3.0 because it feels greatly different right now. And I'm not talking about just in general, but my gut feeling, like, how do I want to open up? And I because we've been in this closure, I want to open up in a way where people can come in and sit and eat, and the doors are open, so to speak. I don't want a reservation style restaurant. And so we're playing around with, don't get me wrong, I still want to do Noma. And I don't know if you can say this. I still want to be the best. You're allowed to say this. I still want to push. I still want to be part of pushing the agenda for food. But right now, I feel like I also just want to be with my fellow Copenhageners, and I like the idea of going to Noma for a glass of wine. I like the idea of just people can pop in and they can put their hand up and call the waiter over and say, hey, is there any food? Yeah, here's some snacks, and they can eat something and order another bottle and then say, hey, I'd like some more to eat. What else is there? That's the spirit that we're going to open up with in some capacity. Obviously, meanwhile, we'll also be preparing to open Noma as a restaurant that we know it. But that will take from the moment we get an okay and the team can actually be together working, we will need at least a month of preparation work before that can happen. So in between, we're going to do something where we're going to have as many people, as simple as possible, as affordable as possible, as friendly as possible. Just come on in, that's how I feel. That's what I feel like myself. Those are the type of places I want to be at right now.
Yeah, me too.
I don't want to sit in a 5-hour meal.
Actually, I was thinking about what fine dining in general is going to look like, but all restaurants. I mean, we've all been spending a lot of time really contemplating this, as this is our world. What lessons can we take away from this that can actually help us grow as an industry?
I mean, I think there are many, many, many lessons, and it's way too early to have that one main lesson or two main lessons. There's a myriad of lessons we're learning already now. One big lesson is focus on people. That is number one. That has been very, very evident to us here in Copenhagen. The ones who are not helping people don't look very well. If you just sort of, I understand that everybody has to fire people, but there's many ways of doing this. Focusing on people is the number one. Great change is can really, really happen. I'm so amazed how we just did it. The world just closed down, and we've gotten beyond the worst beginning anxiety, like this feeling of the world's going to end. It isn't going to end. It's going to be okay. And we change so rapidly, change our habits just like that.
Mm.
I think that's a very big lesson. Obviously, hoping for some sort of environmental change after this, although I don't believe it. I'm hoping for it. I don't believe it will happen. But I feel more optimistic in that sense that we can change if we need to. And when there will be a big environmental issue happening in the future, then we can actually adapt quickly to this. So that's very, very amazing. Another lesson is, of course, how incredibly fragile our industry is. Nobody has any money in our industry. It's shocking. It's really shocking. On my Instagram, I posted something, buying gift certificates, and people are kind of sarcastic. Do you really need the money? Yeah, we really need the money. I mean, the first year we had Nomad 2.0, our profit was $100,000, which is 1% of our sales. Everybody needs the money, and it's everybody that's involved in quality. They are just on such fragile ground. So a big lesson as well is people need to get used to paying much more for food, like much more. Everyone that had that online are commenting on ecological change and environmental change and fairness in the food system in terms of paychecks and no interns and no this and that. This will come at a great, great, great cost. And the general public will have to pay for that and get ready for food prices to really go up, which I think they will here in the short term. There's no question about that. Even locally, food will be much more expensive. And so those are some of the lessons I'm thinking about right now,
Sure. Well, and to dig a little bit deeper about the consumer paying more, because this is something we've been going on about for years, that.
Yeah.
So how do we actually, how do we get them to spend more? How does that happen?
Obviously, I mean, I always, when I try to explain to my guest when we have a discussion about the food system and so on, I always try to just give them a very simple scenario, which is imagine a restaurant, simple local restaurant, and you imagine everyone involved in the restaurant, the cleaner, the dishwasher, the cooks, everybody had a middle-class life standard, house in the suburbs, 2 cars, an annual vacation, 2 to 3 weeks somewhere. And then imagine everybody else that are delivering for the restaurant, the truck driver, the farmer, the fisherman, everybody had to have the same standard too. Now imagine what that meal would cost if we are to have this sort of fair system. And everybody can agree that, wow, okay, I can see that food is just so incredibly cheap. And you always try to explain to them that somebody is paying for, when you buy things that are very cheap, somebody's paying for it. You can't see them. It might be a person somewhere in a part of the world you can't see. It might be a lake or a river or a forest that are paying for you to have that cheap thing. Nothing is cheap. That's what we need to understand. Can we change that ourselves? My honest opinion is no. It will have to come with political initiative. That is my 100% honest opinion. I think a lot of people, they're very good at commenting online, having the right opinions on wherever. But when they're at the market and there's 2 chickens and the one is everything they believe in online and the other one is not, but the price difference makes them choose the other one. That's how I genuinely feel that most people choose. So unless we can have great political support in this and change how people are receiving subsidies, that it becomes financially beneficial to actually have agricultural systems that are also helping Earth and planet and the soil, and is still able to be part of a fair system, by which I mean everybody can afford them. So it's not just for for the lucky few, that will need subsidies. It's a complete mental shift from governments, and we will need that. I mean, obviously, we should all the time talk about this,
Yeah.
and talk about the importance of it. The education of it is pivotal, and we need to tell the story so people can understand what lies behind that bite they take. That there's so much value and choice in each mouthful they take.
Absolutely.
But the big shift will come if there's political change.
So you just mentioned education, and as everyone knows, your foundation has been started up this year, and you started doing some, I hope everybody knows that. You've been running MAD now for, I think, 8 years. 10. So, but do you think you're going to focus a little bit more on education? Because that's such a valuable leadership role that you play actually in the food chain.
For MAD, that's where we're gonna. That's where our plan is to shift into. We've had this plan for the past 4 years to build. We call it an academy, but we don't really truly know what to call it yet. But it is a place to learn about the world, and the main pillars in this school. It's a management school. First of all, it's for leaders in our trade or future leaders. Let's say, I was going to hire a head chef, and I might say, well, I'm going to send you to the MAD school for the next month, and we enrolled you in the leadership program. But there are some main pillars. Leadership is one of them. Environment is another one, and then creativity. And it's not necessarily planned to be built in these strict pillars, because everything is intertwined, obviously. But there will be main focuses where you can say, okay, I really want to learn how to manage a little more. I really need to understand the environment and how that builds into my planning for the future, And we believe that is essential, and it doesn't exist in our world. That's the thing. I mean, Gabrielle Hamilton's famous piece now, where she writes about her restaurant, and there's this phrase that, more and more so chefs are invited into these great discussions, and they're just so not prepared for it. And I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. And so having the beginning of more deeper learning, so that we can unleash more creativity, better businesses, and greater understanding on how we also run our businesses with the environment in mind. That, I believe, is going to be essential for our trade.
And what do you think about the responsibility right now of chef leadership? Is that something that, and convening community, like that's part of MAD's philosophy as well. So, what's the role and the obligation of people like yourself to actually support, other than through MAD and your academy, the continuity of this industry?
Yeah. So first of all, I'd like to say that what you're seeing around the world from cooks is simply unbelievable. I have to say that. I mean, everybody's out there cooking for someone. Mm-hmm. Obviously some are doing takeaways to survive, but many people are just feeding hospitals and going to shelters, and this is pretty unbelievable in my opinion. And this is something that's so unique and makes me so proud of our trade. Everybody's plummeting. Nobody has any money. Everybody had to fire everyone. Let's go out and cook for someone who has it even worse than us. That's what most of our trade is doing. It is unbelievable to watch. And I was having this discussion the other day. I mean, are you seeing that from like lawyer firms that are out there saying, hey, let me offer everything for free for struggling businesses, come and have advice? Are you seeing Deloitte saying, here is a division that will offer free accounting let us help you get through the tedious process of applying for loans and care packages. There's nothing.
Not happening.
It's not happening. You're
Yeah.
not seeing that from any other industry. You know, you see the celebrities singing Imagine online, and I feel like the leadership that's happening from people in our trade is fucking unbelievable right
Nice.
now.
Nice.
And beyond that, I think everybody's gonna help each other to get through this, you know, afterwards once things open up.
Nice. If I can do
But
a quick
our trade is crazy. It's a crazy, crazy trade.
Absolutely. I just want to do a quick plug because on your MAD feed, actually, if people get a chance to go and look at it, if you're not following it already, you're actually showcasing an amazing amount of people who are doing incredible work. So I encourage you to look there. One of the last things I wanted to ask you about is the award system and the accolade system. So, you know, Michelin was released just before the crisis. World's 50 Best is supposed to happen. It seems a little absurd, in my opinion, right now in this like state of unknown. Like where's your head at about accolades and awards? How important are they to you right now?
I mean, I think I'm like anyone. Right now, it doesn't matter at all. But will it matter again in the future for the world? 100%. You know, it's going to come back with a vengeance. There's no question about that. If anybody out there think that they're not going to be around, they're going to be around, and people are going to be kissing their ass so much because they want an upper hand once things return to normal. Just wait and see.
Yeah.
But obviously, no, right now we're in a complete different state of mind. It's you know, you talk about lessons learned. You know, what's valuable to you right now? What do you want to say? What do you want to still have in your life, in your professional life? And you know, it's the people. It's saving the physical space. It's continuing the garden. And then when we open up, it's like, come in and heal. You know, let's be together. We'll feed you something. We'll cook you something. Those are the essential bits right now.
So, burning question, René. What are you cooking at home, and why haven't you started your recipes online?
I think there are plenty of recipes online already as it is. It's basically what there is online, I guess. And the reason why I'm not cooking so much at home is because every day here at the restaurant, as a part of Operation Family Mode, we decided that we'd cook a meal for everyone. So 3 people volunteer and they cook meals for everyone else, and they pack it down, and we come between 4 and 5 and pick up our meals, which can also include for people's families. And it's incredibly delicious.
So last sentiment, René, what do you want to say to the budding and sort of hanging on hospitality people of the world, the servers, the cooks, the dishwashers, hopes for the future?
First of all, you know, it's the future is, forget about in the long run, just worry about right now. Ask for help. That's a big one. Don't be afraid to say that it's too much, that you need help. Find a shoulder to cry on. And I have also cried in this situation. Be together as close as you can with people, and be vulnerable in this situation. I think this is pivotal. And if you can help others, if you have others, reach out and do that. And when you have that human connection, I think we're going to get through it, because it's going to be okay again. It really will. It's going to be a tough time, and there's going to be a great deal of suffering. But if you stick to helping each other, you get through it, and then it's going to be fine again.